Hello and welcome to Maki's Closet. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you a requested video of how to draft and sew a stylish cowl neck dress with a ruffled ruche. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please hit on the subscribe button, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for supporting my channel. Let's dive right into today's video. So now I've marked my vertical measurements, which is my shoulder to bust, shoulder to underbust, and shoulder to waistline. So placing my tape, my shoulder to bust line is 9, shoulder to underbust 12, and shoulder to waist is 17 inches. So now I'll place my tape and mark my shoulder divided by 2, which is 14 divided by 2. I have 7. Go down by 1 inch, place my ruler, and I'm going to draw a slanted line for my shoulder slope. So after that, I'm going to draw out my basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches. So when you're doing this, I'll advise you to use 3 by 4 inches to avoid yours being a bit choky at the neckline. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline all the lines that I have made. Next step is to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make a mark at that point, place my ruler, and I'm going to rule a straight line. So I'm going to connect from my shoulder down to my chest line this way. So after I'm done doing that, I'll divide what I have here into 2, go in by ½ inch. After going in by ½ inch, I'm going to go ahead and place my tape, and I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 at the chest line, place my French curve, connect from that ½ inch down to the lower part, and place it and connect it upwards. So after I'm done connecting this, I'm just going to go ahead to outline my armhole area. So now the next step is to place my tape, and I'm going to mark my shoulder to bust plus 1 inch. That is for your dart, and I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Go ahead and connect. So my nipple to nipple is 7 divided by 2. I have 3.5. I'll go ahead and mark ½ inch dart at both sides, and I will connect it upwards this way. So after I'm done, I'll just go ahead to outline it, to make it more visible. So next step, I'm going to go ahead to insert my measurement. I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Go ahead and mark my sewing allowance of 1 inch. At the underbust, I'll mark my underbust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, and mark my sewing allowance. At the waistline, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace it, and mark my 1 inch sewing allowance. So because I'm not turning it with lining, I'll be sewing with 1 inch. So I'll connect from the top down to the waistline. So this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to connect it. After that, I'm just going to go ahead to cut out this pattern. So after cutting it out, this is what I have. So I'll just go ahead to blend in this dart, because this dress does not really need that sewn on it. So I'll just go ahead and pin my dart. You can go ahead and tape it down or cut it out if you don't want it. So I've gone ahead to mark out my zipper allowance for the back, and I'm just going to take this pattern and I will trace out what I have exactly for my front for the back piece. So after I'm done pinning it, I'll just go ahead and trace out what I have, and I'm going to cut it out with my scissors this way. So after I'm done cutting it out, the next step is to get rid of the bulginess at the back. I'll go ahead and mark ½ inch, and I'm going to place my ruler, and I'm going to extend it upwards this way, and I'll go ahead to cut it out to get rid of the bulginess at the back of the dress. Now after cutting, this is my front pattern and this is my back pattern. So let's go ahead and work on the front pattern. I'll just go ahead to outline all those lines in case it's not visible. Now we are trying to create a cowl neck, and we are going to go ahead to slash this pattern into 4 or 3 pieces. So first, I'm going to measure what I have at the shoulder line, and I'll go ahead to divide it into 3. So I'm going to mark 1.5, 1.5, and the last one is going to be 2 inches. So I'll divide what I have from here down to my chest line also into 3 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark, and after that, I'm going to use my marker to connect from this point down to the point at the shoulder. So the first line will be meeting the first line at the lower part, just like the first one at the shoulder will be meeting the second line at the lower part, and then the last line will be meeting at the chest line. So this is what I have, and I'll connect from the chest line down to my bust point this way. So now I'm going to go ahead to reconnect all my lines, and I'm going to cut it out. So while cutting out, you can go ahead and not cut out the shoulder, but in this case we want to create like a little ruffle on the shoulder part, so we are going to go ahead to cut it out and place it back on a pattern, on a plain paper, sorry, and we are going to retrace all this out. So I'll go ahead and I will place it on a paper this way, on a new paper, and I'm going to pin it, or you can go ahead and use your sellotape to hold it down. So in front, I'm going to make sure I have a straight line, so I'm just going to cut across the neckline of the front a bit, and I will rule a straight here line. And I will also reconnect the shoulder. I'll place and draw a straight line at the shoulder part and reconnect it down to the armhole this way and down to the lower part. So this is what I have. So I noticed that the neckline of the front is too high, and I'll just go ahead to readjust it. So now I'll be marking 3.5 inches, which will serve as the facing of this dress, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I will connect what I have. So by the time you're sewing and you flip it to the back, is going to be the facing of the dress in front. So now after you're done tracing out, sorry for the double lines, actually you're just going to unpin your pattern and you're going to cut out what you have. So I'm just going to go ahead and I will cut out this pattern. So when you're cutting it out, take note of that point that you marked as your facing. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and fold that part, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a little notch on both sides, so that it's going to indicate where my facing is on this dress. So this is what I have for the front pattern, and my facing did not cut across this part, so when I'm cutting out, I'm going to make sure it reaches the other end, and we're going to go ahead to fold the shoulder to match the full shoulder at the back of the dress. So this is my back pattern, and I'll go ahead to lower the neckline a bit because the one we have at the front is a bit high. So this is what I have. You can go ahead to create any neckline of your choice. So before I start cutting the lower part, I'm going to explain it because it's a bit tricky. So now on this part, you notice that we have like a ruche. So the first thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut out my back pattern, and I will use my back pattern to cut for the front. So on one side of the front, I'm going to add extra length, which is the part that has that ruche. On the other parts of the front, I'm going to make it shorter. So if you notice it has like a flounce at that part, so after cutting it short, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a flounce and attach it. So by the time I ruche the other side and attach the flounce at the other side, the both sides will be meeting. So let's go ahead to cut. So sorry, my fabric is a bit rumpled. I'm having light issue here, so I'll still go ahead to iron it out. So you're going to go ahead and fold your material into a triangle form this way. Now my waist circumference is 28 divided by 2. I have 14, so I'll be cutting the front separately and the back separately. So that's to cut the back. Now since I folded my fabric into 2, what I'm going to do is that 14 inches divided by 2, I have 7 inches plus 1 inch for ease allowance and 1 inch for zipper allowance, making it a total of 9 inches. So I'll go ahead and place my tape, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it at that point. So I'll take my tape and I'll place it at the top of the fabric, and at that point I marked 9 inches. I'm going to measure what I have at that point. So whatever I have there, I'm going to go ahead and take it round. After taking it round, I'm going to have like a small semicircle, and I'm going to measure what I have round there. And if it doesn't give you the same measurement, you have to go back and measure it again. So after that point, what you're going to do now is you're going to start your measurement for the skirt length. So now for the upper part, you know that we stopped at 17 inches and the total length of my skirt, my dress, is 35 inches. So I'll place my tape at that 17 inches where I have that mark, and I'm going to be marking 35 inches round the fabric. So after I'm done marking that 35 inches, I'm just going to go ahead to use my chalk to connect it. So after connecting, I'm just going to cut it out. So if you have any question on this, please go down to the comment section and ask me anything you don't understand. So the 35 inches length is not a constant, it just depends on what you want. So I want mine to be a bit shorter than what we have at the thumbnail. So after cutting this out, this is the back pattern. We're going to use it to cut out the front pattern. So the front pattern has two sides. So this is what I have now, and I'm going to place this on another fabric. So just like we said, one part of the front is very long and we are going to actually ruche it up. So I'm just going to add extra 6 inches to what I have. So please, when you're doing yours, make sure you add up to 10. I don't have enough fabric, so that's why I'm using 6 inches. So place your tape at the lower part of the skirt and measure the extra inches that you're working with. So after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead to cut out the pattern. So this is what I have after spreading it open. So now this is the part for the front, actually the part that I added 6 inches extra to. So what I'm going to mark now is my waist circumference divided by 2, which is 14 inches. 28 divided by 2, I have 14, and I'll go ahead to add extra 2 inches. That's 1 inch on both sides for sewing allowance, and I'll take it down to the lower part this way. So I've actually gone ahead to iron my fabric, and the next thing is to draw like a little curve because the fabric actually has a curve at this part. So after curving it out, the next step I'm going to take is just to go ahead to cut it out, and we'll go ahead to cut the other side of this dress. So now I'm going to take that back pattern and we're going to go ahead to cut the other side of the front, which is shorter. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace the upper part of the waistline and the sides. Now I'm going to be minusing about 5 inches from the lower part because we'll be attaching a flounce to it. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and fold up the fabric for the back up this way, and I'm going to minus 5 inches from that 35 inches length. So I'm just going to follow it round and I'm going to mark. So my skirt started from 17 inches and is going to stop at 30 inches for this one. Why? For the front part, my skirt, the other side of the front part, my skirt started at 17 inches, and at the 35 inches length I added extra 6 inches for ruching. So you can go ahead and add up to 10. So for the back length, that is where I use the actual length of the skirt, which is just 17 to 35 inches. So after cutting it out, this is what I have, and I'm going to go ahead to open it up this way. So I'm going to create like a curve to that other side. So now, just like the same way we did for the other side, I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 2, which is 14 inches, and I'll be adding 2 extra inches. That's 1 inch on both sides for sewing allowance, so which gives me 2 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to connect. So after doing that, the next step I'm going to take is from there I'm going to go ahead to curve it. So you notice this side is a bit curved, so you also have to curve the other side, and this side is the part that has the ruche, while this other side is the side that has the flounce. So by the time I ruche this side and add flounce to the other side, they are actually going to be of the same length. So now what I'm going to do is to curve this other shorter part of the front dress. So now I'm just going to go ahead to connect it from that part and create a little curve Then afterwards I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. So join us in our next video where we'll be doing the actual stitching of the dress. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and see you in our next video. Thanks.